The Hellfire Peninsula was the first zone you encountered beyond the Dark Portal in the Burning Crusade expansion. For many players, this was not the first encounter with the place. The Hellfire Peninsula exists in both Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3. And before it became a zone of the Burning Crusade, it was planned to be a leveling zone in Vanilla WoW. Today we are taking a look at how this place has evolved through time. Enjoy! The first time we set foot on Draenor is in Warcraft 2 Beyond the Dark Portal. In the human campaign, we venture into the Red World to stop another orc invasion. This very first version introduced a lot of characteristics to Outland that still remains today. The reddish-brown wasteland with the mushroom trees was brought back again in Warcraft 3 The Frozen Throne. This was the first time we saw Hellfire Peninsula in 3 dimensions, when we went there with Illidan, Kael'thas and Lady Vashj to throw Magtheridon out of the Black Temple. It's worth mentioning that it was here in the peninsula that we could find the Black Temple in Warcraft 3, not in Shadowmoon Valley. I mentioned before that the peninsula was originally meant to be a vanilla leveling zone, and that actually came quite far in development. If you crack open the vanilla game files, you can find several assets branded Outland. So this pre-Burning Crusade Outland, where would you possibly find it? Well, the first time it appears in the game files is in the Alpha Vanilla version 0.5.5 build 3494. Here, far off the coast of Stranglethorn Vale, is where you will find the first iteration of the original Hellfire Peninsula. At this point though, it is basically just empty terrain, and even that is pretty broken. However, the next alpha patch 0.6.0 build 3592 added some things to the place. They put in a dark portal and what seems to be the beginning of Honor's Hold and Thrallmar and some other things. So before vanilla, this was actually in active development with each alpha build. In the following alpha patches, more stuff were added to the map. And what's cool is this map was not removed when vanilla was released. It actually remained off the coast of Stranglethorn Vale all the way up to the final patch before Burning Crusade. Alright, so let's take a tour around the original Hellfire Peninsula to see what was kept and what was scrapped for the final version. As you can see on this overview, the layout has at least inspired what we have today, with the dark portal in the far end and a path going through the middle of the zone with Alliance and Horde bases on each side. One thing you will notice with this version is that the dark portal is the same as it is in Blasted Lands, so in other words, it's much smaller than the one you will find in-game. Another notable thing about this version is all the mushrooms. You will find them both grounded and flying above you, and if we look back at the source material from Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3, this is one of the most characteristic elements of what it looked like back then. And despite this fact, you can find none of it in the final iteration of it. With its complete lack of vegetation, it's hard to see how the live version was once Tanaan jungle. On the other hand though, it's quite easy to see why they didn't fill Hellfire Peninsula with mushrooms in the Burning Crusade, because when you were done with this zone, you passed on to Sangar Marsh. And what do you find there? Loads and loads of mushrooms. So yeah, while it makes sense, it's still hard to argue against the fact that the live version of Hellfire has ignored one of the key characteristics of the zone. So lore-wise, the Alliance have had structures on Outland since the Sons of Lothar passed the Dark Portal in Warcraft 2. And what you see here is most likely the first iteration of Honor's Hold. It is made up by ruined Alliance buildings scattered around and a keep at its center. And further down the road is a tower with a broken summit floating around. And a model very similar to this can be found in the live version as well. It is located on a floating rock near the Dark Portal, where it serves as a quest hub. In opposite to the Alliance ruins, the Horde base is still intact, and although the buildings looks more primitive, it is actually bigger than Thrallmar. It is made up by a small set of buildings and several guard towers, and in my opinion it looks really cool. Another area in the original Outland is this. Near the Horde base you can find a Draenei village in what looks like a small forest. Now this was back during a time when the Draenei we can play as today didn't exist. Today the Draenei are separated in the Exodar, the Broken and the Lost Ones. The buildings you see here are actually used in-game in live today with this exact design. If you go to Sangremarsh, you will see that the Lost Ones are using these structures, which have been in the game file since early Alpha Vanilla. Even the Pools of Agonar existed way before Vanilla was released. The layout is quite similar and it's the same model, however it is much smaller than it is in live. Another thing you will find on live servers, which was actually created before Vanilla, is the siege engines. All those battle tanks placed along the Path of Glory had actually been in the game files off the coast of Stranglethorn Vale from the very first day. Overall, the original Hellfire Peninsula really stays true to the idea that Outland was an old battlefield. All the broken structures and war machines and corpses laying everywhere. It is a really nice tribute to the old RTS games. Now there are many objects and assets within the original Outland that never made it to the final cut, and these floating rocks and trees you see here are some of them. However, these two very much still exist in-game. Within the Deadmines instance, there lies a small hidden area where these trees and stones can be found. This has been here since Vanilla, and thanks to the objects and the outlandish textures, it is often referred to as Alpha Outland or the Outland Testing Area, and you might very well know it under a different name. Now it is quite easy to get here on live servers and explore it, and there are plenty of guides on YouTube if you wish to do so. I can recommend the one from Heelvsbabyface, which I will link on the screen and in the description down below. It shows you exactly how to get here, so go check it out, it's a really good video. And beside the Outland objects, which by the way are named Outland Floating Tree and Floating Rock, the cliffs around it actually come from Elwyn Forest, and the purple bubbles are obviously the Dollar and Dome, and you can even see the reflections on the dome from when it was placed in the Hillspread foothills. So yeah, this zone is really a mashup of different things, but most of all it's a small time capsule where some of the objects used in the original Outland still can exist to this day. So while it is impossible to say exactly when the original Hellfire Peninsula was scrapped in favor of the one we got in the Burning Crusade, it was definitely very early on. The final cut have a lot more variety to the zone, and it's floating around in the twisting nether, and while it has a lot of similarities to the original, it really has a completely different feel. The original Outland has a lot more to it that I didn't show in this video, so if you want to see more, do check out a complete exploration video that I will link here and in the description. And also let me know in the comments down below what you think about the zone and how it has evolved into the live version. And as always, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be back with another video very soon. But until then, Take care.